Good afternoon, good day, good whenever you're seeing this. Welcome to the Literati with
I'm Sayla Kumani.
my name is Sassafras Cypress Indigo, also known as Makeda. We together make the Literati, like superheroes. Um, we are
Powers
at
activate. Shazam.
we are at the wonderful venue, the Secret Word, that was benevolently bestowed upon us by
Works.
by Nefertari Queen Raven. The Secret Word features poetry, features community events, features a bunch of awesome people together in one small room, or one large room actually, at 2016 Dowling in Houston, Texas. Come by just about any night of the week, and you're sure to get a treat. So thanks, Nefertari.
Bring a bag with you. Trick or treat.
Trick or treat. Today we're going to be talking about another one of my favorites, Mama Day by Gloria Naylor. Now, we can't talk bad about my treatment of this book as we could about Sassafras, Cypress, and Indigo, because see, it still has binding and everything. I'm awesome. But it does have plenty of highlights in Old Flowers. You might not be able to pick this up, but I have flowers stuck in my book. and, and they usually it points to parts of the book that I actually like a lot. So that's kind of where that goes. Mama Day is the story of sisters. It's the story of sisters, a niece, and a guy named George.
And a guy named George.
Mama Day is the oldest sister, who she's kind of a roots working woman.
She's a matriarch.
She's a matriarch. She's telling the story of her niece, Coco.
Which kind of like the story of their lineage and the
True.
story of Coco.
That's very true.
Let me say this up front.
Let's get it all out in the open.
I had a really hard time with this book. Okay, I've been reading this book for a couple of months, and I know she takes this book very personally.
It didn't resonate
It didn't move
with
me.
your spirit.
It did not. At one point, I was like, I just don't care. I don't care. I don't care what y'all do. Go here, go there. I don't care. What are you doing, George? I don't know. George, are you okay? I don't care.
If you friended either one of us on Facebook and you've seen her wall within the last month or so,
Yeah, she's yelling at me on my wall because.
you will see me chastising her. Have you finished the book? Have you finished the book? Have you finished the book?
And guess what?
She didn't.
I haven't finished the book. Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something.
I do like Gloria Naylor because I loved Bailey's Cafe.
Which we're going to do soon.
Yes, we are. I enjoyed Bailey's Cafe, and this has all the elements.
Yes.
Of a book that I would love. There's a subtle romance. There is the mystical.
A lot of the mystical.
A lot of the mystical. There is a matriarch. There is history.
There's a riddle opening the book.
Right. I mean, it's got everything that I would like in a book. But
she didn't like
I don't
it.
like it.
I cried real people tears when she told me she didn't like the book.
I was like, I've got to tell you something.
Let me break this down to you. She tried to get me drunk first and then told me. No, I'm kidding. She didn't like it. I did because of the elements. As a person who has read, I think, just about all of Gloria Naylor's work, she does this common thread thing throughout the book. Throughout all of her books, like every book she's ever released, there's a common thread from Linden Hills to you just slipped my mind, from Linden Hills to Bailey's Cafe. As a matter of fact, one of the characters in Bailey's Cafe was the mother of George, our dude, our head guy in the book.
Our chief protector.
Yes, our chief. George is an amazing guy. It takes place.
I did like George.
George was a dynamic character.
Yeah,
he was a very dynamic character. He was the catalyst so much for Coco's change.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the story takes place in Georgia, in this little island that can't be found on a map called Willow Springs.
And it doesn't actually exist in any state.
No, it doesn't exist in any state.
It's its own piece of liberated land in the great U.S. of A.
Right, and they pay no taxes to any place.
To any place because they literally are not a part of any state. So neither state can claim them for their taxes.
And the mystery behind it is is not explained, because you really have to read it a couple of times to get the whole thing about the 18s and 23s.
Mm-hmm.
But the main matriarch, who is, we're talking about her in flashback,
Right.
Sapphira Bascom Wade. She was another one of these root conjured women with this hint, not even hint, she had a whole cloak of mysticism about her, and how she's the seventh daughter of seven sons, and she's the person who secured this land that nobody could tax and you can't find on a map.
Was her lover
Was her slave owner.
Was her slave owner.
Right.
And he was like, he loved her.
Right.
He was in love with her, and he was buried facing her, because she went out, and the legend says she went in the ocean and never came back.
Right.
So he mourned her, and this land went to her descendants,
her babies. Yeah.
And he was buried at like this hillside facing the ocean because he never found her.
He was looking for her.
He was looking for her
in eternity.
Right.
She had the magnetism. She had a magnetism about her that made people want to be around. Sapphira Wade did. And they came up with this term called the 18s and 23s that just explain unexplained stuff. When I first read this, however long ago it was that I first read it, when I read the term 18s and 23s, it reminded me of kind of like deja vu, that thing that you can't really explain, and so you just kind of tack a word onto it. And they go into kind of
gave meaning to the meaningless.
Exactly, it gave meaning to the meaningless. The last little section of the epilogue that kind of is explaining the 18s and 32s takes place, and it's talking about one of the citizens in this little place. Her son, the lady's name is Rima. Her son goes away from the island to be educated, and he comes back wanting to take archaeological anecdotes about the mysticism and the mysteries that take place on the island. And they make fun of him because he tries to assign all these scientific answers to things that can't be explained.
Well, I think he wanted to talk about his birthplace,
right?
But he had to do it in a way that people would understand. And mystical things, spiritual things, people don't.
No, and sometimes they don't. I don't think they just. It's not that they don't deserve an explanation. It's just that it works better when you don't try. The way that the prologue ends, but on second thought, someone, because they're talking about Rima's boy and how he was trying to explain everything. It says, but on second thought, someone who didn't know how to ask wouldn't know how to listen, because he'd gone around the town bugging people with questions about what the 18s and 23s were. He says he could have listened to him the way you've been listening to us right now. Think about it. Ain't nobody really talking to you. We're sitting here in Willow Springs, and you're God knows where. It's August 1999, and ain't but a slim chance that it's the same season where you are. Listen. Really listen to this time. The only voice that you hear is your own. But you done just about heard the legend of Sapphira Wade, although nobody here breathes her name. That's another thing. Nobody ever says her name. Nobody breathes her name. You done heard it the way we know it, sitting on porches, shelling June peas, quieting the midnight cough of a baby, taking apart the engine of a car. You done heard it without a single living soul really saying a word. Pity, though, Rima's boy couldn't listen like you to Coco and George down by them oaks, or he would have left here with quite a story. And that's how we're introduced to Coco and George. And Sapphira Wade, even though her name is never brought up in the town. That's the nature of Gloria Naylor's work in a nutshell. She introduces you to the great unknown and tries to make it as known as possible for